Welcome back to the Unathletic, everyone. When we were last with you, we were discussing the turmoil going on at Manchester United. And now, let's move to a completely different sport, Nate. Let's talk some baseball. This is our last episode until baseball season starts. Not our last episode ever, don't worry. So with baseball season coming up, Nate, you're a Red Sox fan. You're a native San Diegan, but you're a diehard Red Sox fan. Still don't really know how it works, but I'll respect you and I'll respect that. But
that seemed a little unnecessary.
Yeah, it was, but we out here, man. And so the Red Sox, what do you think they're going to be doing this year? Because I think everyone who's familiar with what's been going on in the world of baseball knows that the Yankees just acquired Giancarlo Stanton. So what do you think, or what are your expectations for the Red Sox going into 2018?
My expectations are to win the American League East and make it to the American League Championship Series before crashing and burning. Yes,
Confidence.
The Yankees are. Over the last 2 years, we won one playoff game, so I think that's definitely being confident. The Yankees are a threat, but we added a guy who's pretty good too. His name is JD Martinez. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
He was on my fantasy team last year.
He's on my fantasy team this year. So,
oh yeah. Enjoy him. There you go.
Well, that makes me, adding JD Martinez makes me a lot less scared of the Yankees. And I actually think that the Red Sox are a safer bet to win the American League East than the Yankees. I understand the Yankees, they go out and get a guy who almost hit 60 home runs last year. They've got a rookie who hit 50 home runs last year. So I understand the Yankees are good, but the Yankees have a lot of unknowns. Can Giancarlo Stanton stay healthy? Can Aaron Judge repeat his success from 2017? He's coming off of shoulder surgery, I believe. So, we don't know what's going to happen. And obviously the Red Sox have some question marks. Biggest one for me is, can Xander Bogaerts go back to being one of the best shortstops in the American League? For 2 years, he was 2015 and 2016. He was like the best offensive shortstop in the league. Had a bit of a down year last year, but I want to see if he can get back to repeating his form. But you know what? Given all that, I think the Red Sox are a safer bet than the Yankees are. And you can call me biased, y'all can call me whatever. I honestly think the Red Sox are a safer bet to win the American League East than the Yankees.
I think that's valid. I don't think you necessarily need to be biased to think that the Red Sox would be a safer bet than the Yankees. But I think for me personally, I disagree in the fact that the Red Sox just viewing their team on a more holistic way, have been very inconsistent over the past 4 to 5 years in terms of what they've produced just record-wise. It seems like every other year, the Red Sox are winning the division, going deep into the playoffs, if not winning the World Series, and then the next year, they literally will win like 70 games and finish last in the AL East.
World Series, last place, win division. Like, that is crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty unprecedented, especially, I think a lot of that has to do with signing players like Pablo Sandoval.
Who? I'm sorry, I don't know who that is.
Greatest Red Sox of all time, Pablo Sandoval. And so I think with that being said, the Red Sox, it's not necessarily safe to bet on their success because it's been proven in the past that out of nowhere, when it seems like they have everything going their way, that they'll crash and burn. And I think that's why it's up to Alex Cora, new manager Alex Cora, who replaced John Farrell this offseason, to right the ship in that way and just to be a manager of consistency. But he again is an unknown. Like, he's going to have a lot to prove this season in terms of he can handle managing not only a team with a lot of like high profile names, but in a market like Boston where the media is very unforgiving and you can be put on blast every single day.
If I was Alex Cora, I would delete my Twitter account now so that once you make one wrong decision, people are going to come after you. So I'm a little surprised he still has the Twitter, to be honest.
Definitely. And then also Alex Cora, don't do what Jose Mourinho did and just rail on your players for 12 minutes.
Because Bobby Valentine did that and it didn't work out for him.
Yeah, and he who must not be named, Bobby Valentine. That, yeah, definitely. We're glad he's gone. I'm not even a Red Sox fan, and I'm glad he's out of baseball. Anyways, that's neither here nor there, as you like to say, Nate. And so, you have the Red Sox winning the division. So you mentioned that you have them crashing and burning in the ALCS. Why is that?
Well, I think Cleveland and Houston are better teams. And I think maybe the Red Sox should get by, because those are the two teams that have eliminated the Red Sox back-to-back years in the postseason.
Crushed them.
Yeah, exactly. So, maybe the Red Sox could get by one of those teams, but I don't see them getting past both those teams. But getting to the ALCS, obviously your goal is to win the World Series. You want to win the World Series every single year, but getting to the ALCS will be a huge step in the right direction for a team that has got swept in 2016, won one postseason game last year. So it's all about those small steps, like our buddy Vince said. It's a marathon, and you gotta get going. And I can see us getting to the ALCS. I would love to say World Series, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I think my take on how the Red Sox will do this year is I honestly think the Yankees are a better team. I think their pitching rotation is just unequivocally better. There's a lot more question marks in the Red Sox rotation, in my opinion. I know you may disagree with me, but you don't really know what you're going to get out of David Price this year in terms of, he's on a really big contract. We don't know what we're going to get out of him. Rick Porcello, I think, is a huge unknown. He's sort of operated like the Red Sox have. He's had amazing years and he's had terrible years. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do. And also the back end of the Red Sox rotation, we don't really know, how that's going to work. The Yankees, their starting five is set. You have four guys that could arguably be a 1 or a 2 on any other team in Major League Baseball, with a few exceptions, I would say, other than the Nationals and the Dodgers. But yeah, when Sonny Gray is your fourth starter, I think that's a pretty fantastic rotation, if I do say so myself. And so I think the Yankees are going to win the division. I do give the Red Sox a wild card position though, because I think that the American League as a whole is weaker than the National League. And so, other than the Red Sox, we sort of those mid to upper tier teams that they'll be competing with will be teams like the Angels, who definitely have not proven themselves. The Mariners, everyone likes to pick the Mariners.
Every year I say the Mariners are going to be a wild card team, and every year I'm proven wrong. So I'm going to say this year that they're not a wild card team, and hopefully, because I'd like to see them get into the playoffs to end their drought. I'm going to say this. If the Bills can make the playoffs, the Mariners can. I'm going to just say that.
Definitely. We have a buddy in our fantasy baseball league. His name is Michael McGaw. Who knows? Maybe he'll listen to this segment, and he is from Seattle, and he is a Mariners fan. So our hearts go out to him in that, one of the longest existing playoff droughts in sports, the Seattle Mariners, which is amazing because the teams that they've assembled over the past 2 to 3 years have been good enough on an objective roster level to make the playoffs. And so then again, getting back to the Red Sox, there's teams like the Angels and the Mariners that are going to be competing with them. You don't really know about teams like the Blue Jays, how they'll fare. Maybe the A's will come up and surprise people. People like to say that every year. I don't know. But that's why I have them as winning a wild card spot this year. So, Nate, I want to ask you... actually, before I ask you anything, my final point on the Red Sox will be, I think this is a transition year for them. And with that being said, welcome to Boston, Manny Machado. I think Manny Machado being a free agent next season, the Red Sox are definitely going to want to try to keep up with the Yankees in this way, especially if they don't win the division. And I think that's going to pressure them to sign a guy like Manny Machado. I mean, they have Rafael Devers, who's such a young stud at third base, but I know we were talking about this earlier. I would personally like to have Manny Machado arguably over any third baseman or shortstop in Major League Baseball. He's just that good. So, yeah, I mean, Nate, do you have any thoughts on my opinions of the Red Sox signing Machado?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to turn down Manny Machado if he comes to the Red Sox, but I don't think that the Red Sox need is in current Major League Baseball talent. The Red Sox need is in prospects. It's in AA, AAA, single A. It's in the farm system. That's where the Red Sox need to be allocating their resources.
Yeah, especially with the Yankees and how strong they're.
Yeah, because I'd say that the Red Sox and Yankees Major League rosters are very
they're pretty comparable,
pretty even. But the Yankees are a mile ahead when it comes to prospects, when it comes to the farm system, and a lot of that is because the Red Sox have gone out and they've traded for guys like Craig Kimbrell and Chris Sale, and they've brought these guys in to assemble a team that can win the World Series now, but 3, 4, 5 years down the road could be a dumpster fire. And so I think the Red Sox need to be allocating their resources in the draft and international signings, player development. Yeah, and that's why I actually think where a guy like Alex Cora, who's I believe he's from Puerto Rico. Yeah, I think he's from Puerto Rico.
He's from a Latin American country.
Yeah, Puerto Rico's not a country, but...
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Again, neither here nor there.
I apologize, Puerto Rico.
Alex Cora, someone who's kind of, been in those circles with international player development. I think having a guy like him could go a long way for the Red Sox. But yeah, the Red Sox need to be allocating their resources in the farm system and in player development and not in spending big-time money on huge free agents. Okay. Well, moving on here to Ben's favorite team, the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yes.
Ben, what are your expectations for the Cardinals this year? Because, the Cardinals have missed the playoffs back-to-back years. And I always heard about, the Cardinal way. And the Cardinals are the model Major League franchise. Are they? Is that the Cardinal way? Is that still a thing? Are they still the model Major League franchise, given the fact that they've missed the playoffs back-to-back years?
Yeah, so I think that's a really great question, Nate. And so I think this whole Cardinal way stigma gets on a lot of fans' nerves. I think
it does
objectively,
it gets on my nerves.
A lot of people hate the Cardinals due to players like Yadier Molina, who he's very animated when he's playing. Picking off runners at first base, and he's definitely the captain of the Cardinals and sticking up for his teammates and who the Cardinals are. And he famously got into that fight with Brandon Phillips a number of years ago. I think that was like 5 or 6 years ago. But yeah, I think that Cardinal fans also feed into the Cardinal way in that regard, and they just kind of ride the wave of like the media as a whole kind of dubbing Cardinals fans as like the best fans in baseball. And so I'm personally still a believer in the Cardinal way, even if I like kind of realize that like the stigma of the Cardinal way is a little mixed in that regard. But I think the Cardinal way at its core is consistency. If I were to put it in one word, and that I think has to do with the continued success. And when I say continued success, I mean like 10 to 15 years of continuous minor league, like fantastic minor league development. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, Nate, like every single year it seems like a guy on the Cardinals comes from out of nowhere and keeps the team in contention, even when it seems like, oh, the Cardinals will be, more mediocre this year, then a good rookie will come up and then they'll win 95 games.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's just kind of the way it's gone. And I think that's a real testament to their minor league development and how coaches and staff, down in the minor leagues, down in Memphis, amongst other minor league cities that are affiliated with the Cardinals, are teaching these players ways in which to be ready for the major leagues and to succeed on that level. Last year, Paul DeJong was called up, and he actually he caused us to trade Aledmus Diaz, who was our stellar rookie that came up 2 years ago and saved the Cardinal season. Just because Paul DeJong did the exact same thing and then actually got Aledmus Diaz out of a job and shipped to Toronto. So it seems like these rookies are on an every single year basis, even replacing the rookies that preceded them. So I think that's how prolific this Cardinal way is, and I think that's what they do a fantastic job at. This has really proven successful over the past 10 to 15 years. They have 2 World Series titles. They had a number of years where they pretty much made the playoffs, and it's actually not until these past 2 years where they've missed the playoffs for the first time, I think, since the 90s. They've missed the playoffs for 2 consecutive years, which is, that harkens back to those like 90s Braves teams of winning the division 14 straight times. Like, that's how great the sustained run of the Cardinals has been. But what I will say about the Cardinal way is that the Cardinals need to alter some things if they want to stay relevant, because throughout this 10 to 15 year time period, they have not had competition within their own division like the Cubs have been. Mm-hmm. The Cubs are, there was teams like, the Reds were good for a little bit. The Brewers were pretty good. The Pirates were good. Like, there was teams that came up for probably 2 to 3 years of continuous competition with the Cardinals, but the Cubs, as well as I do, they're going to be good for a long time, like 6, 7, 8 years of continuously
One of my best friends is a Cubs fan, and he's super annoying about it.
Yeah, yep, I agree. As a Cardinal fan, Cubs are really annoying. And me moving to Chicago next year, I'm going to have to deal with that, but, that's neither here nor there. And so with that being said, in terms of competing with the Cubs and how great their minor league system is, the Cardinals really need to make some, I think, high-profile free agent moves that we haven't seen in a long time, or maybe, making a big trade for someone. The last time we really saw a high-profile free agent signing from the Cardinals was Matt Holliday, which was all the way back in 2009. That was 9 years ago, and albeit that was a fantastic contract. That was one of the few lengthy contracts that we've seen that have actually lived up to the money, because Matt Holliday actually sustained his success over the entire duration of that contract. But the Cardinals went after David Price a couple off seasons ago, and they actually missed out to the Red Sox. So it was proven that the Cardinals were actually willing to go spend this money because they knew the Cubs were coming, and they were just unfortunate enough to miss out on free agents, because even though St. Louis is a fantastic baseball city, living in Missouri is not objectively, it's not the most attractive option as living in New York, living in Miami. We proved that with the Cardinals trying to go get Stanton over the offseason. They weren't able to get him because Stanton didn't want to move to Missouri. So I realize this is a very long answer to your question, Nate. And the last thing I'll say is they are continuously moving in the right direction to sustain the Cardinal way because they acquired Marcell Ozuna this offseason, which is, I think, arguably one of the biggest trades that happened this offseason, getting a guy who had comparable production to a guy like JD Martinez last season. And, adding, I think, a big bat in the middle of our order that we've been missing for a long time is going to be really great in helping the Cardinals sustain their success. But yeah, I think the Cardinal way is still well and alive, but it's the Cubs are tough, man. The Cubs are definitely tough competition.
Yeah, you talk about going out and making some big free agent moves. You go out, they missed out on Price, they missed out on Stanton. They go out, they make a move for Ozuna. What holes do you think are still on the Cardinals roster? Because you look at a roster like the Cubs, they don't have a lot of holes in their roster. What holes do you see on the Cardinals roster that need to be filled?
You are definitely correct in saying that the Cubs don't have any holes, and I think that's why the Cubs are going to win the division this year. Their team is just too good. I think the Cardinals, their holes with this Ozuna trade, I think their lineup is sustainable. They'll have a good amount of offense to keep them afloat. But then the question becomes the pitching. I think Carlos Martinez is an unequivocal ace. We're actually
he's one of my favorite pitchers.
Yeah, we're actually very fortunate that he's going to be pitching for the Cardinals this year because he had some he got accused of, I think, assaulting someone in the offseason or a few years ago. So it was, kind of scary there. And hopefully that isn't even an ongoing investigation because on an objective level, the Cardinals need Carlos Martinez in the rotation because he's an ace and he's really good regardless of, all of the extracurriculars that he participates in. And continuing on the train of starting pitching, Adam Wainwright, he's still in the rotation. I think is slotted in as our number 2 starter, and he's, I think, 37 or 38 years old. We don't have Matt Hendrickson here with us to give us an exact name on an exact age on all these guys, but he's really getting up there, and he hasn't shown his past Cy Young form anymore, and I don't think it's fair to expect that he's going to throw under a 4 ERA at this point in his career because he really he's lost his velocity, his breaking ball doesn't break as much as it used to, and he gets hit hard. And Nate, I want to ask you, how many pitchers in the Cardinals rotation can you name outside of those 2 guys?
Michael Wacha, and that's about it.
Yeah, you have Michael Wacha, who's pretty much a 3 starter at this point in his career. He had some success a while back, but he's been inconsistent as well. But beyond that, it's going to be Luke Weaver as our number 4 spot, who was a rookie last year. He was good, but then you mentioned the Red Sox having unknowns or the Yankees having unknowns. He's a big unknown in terms of can he continue his success that he had last season? And then our 5 starter is this guy named Miles Mikolas, who we got from the Japanese League in the offseason. And that's just a weird way to round out a rotation. I would have liked to see us go get an Alex Cobb, re-sign Lance Lynn. I would feel much more comfortable going into the season if we did one of those moves. But, I think the rotation definitely needs to be shored up, and hopefully that can be addressed during the season. Go out and get a guy like Michael Fulmer. The Tigers are going to be terrible. He's a good pitcher. Go take him off that team because the Tigers will most likely deal him. Go get Chris Archer. It seems like Chris Archer every single year. Trade deadline. Chris Archer's about to get traded. He doesn't get dealt. This is the year, Cardinals. Go out and get Chris Archer. Also, if this is really, because I think both of us are on this train of Seattle. You need to win this year or else your time is up. If Seattle is, 5 or 6 games below 500 at the trade deadline, we could see Seattle moving some pieces. Go get James Paxton. James Paxton, when healthy, is an ace. If you're able to get James Paxton and figure out a way to keep him healthy, then that would be a fantastic piece to add to your rotation. And it's also been proven that the Cardinals like to make deals with Jerry Dipoto. I think everyone likes to make deals with Jerry Dipoto because he makes the most moves out of any GM in baseball. So with that being said, I think Dipoto would be inclined to make a radical move like moving an ace like James Paxton. So that's the rotation. I realize these are very long answers. I'm very passionate about the Cardinals. I think we are one bat away from being a World Series contender. Address the rotation issues, get one more bat. I was thinking we could go sign Mike Moustakas in the offseason, have him play third base, keep Matt Carpenter at first base, and that would really lengthen out the lineup with Moose in the middle. There's still a possibility of getting him next year. He signed a 1-year deal with the Royals to go back there this year. I'm kind of like, why didn't the Cardinals go after him if he was available on a 1-year deal, honestly? But go get one more bat. I was hoping they would get Hosmer. Who knows? But I think their frugality this offseason in not going out and getting a pitcher might explain that they might be trying to go after some of these high-profile free agents that are going to be around in this coming offseason. Maybe they go after Manny Machado. Maybe for some reason they think they can go get a Bryce Harper. Who knows? I know they have a lot of money because they sell out virtually every game because of Cardinal Nation. So we know there's money there. So it's just a matter of when and will the Cardinals be willing to spend it.
All right. Well, I think you think the Cardinals are a postseason team, do you?
I do. Yes.
All right. If they make the postseason, what are your expectations? Can they win the World Series? Are they good enough to win the World Series, or could they be like a one and done?
So as I said, I think they won't win the division. I think they have the capability of winning the division, but I don't think they will. I think the Cubs are going to be a little too much to handle. With that being said, I think they'll be a wild card team, and it's going to be tough in the NL because you got a lot of teams that are going to be competing for that wild card. It seems like all of the NL West, probably excluding the Padres and the Giants, are going to be in that conversation. Maybe even the Giants because they've made some moves.
But not the Padres.
Not the Padres. You got Eric Hosmer. It's a great step in the right direction, but...
You have Clayton Richards starting on opening day. So.
Yes, that's pretty self-explanatory right there. But, there's teams like the Diamondbacks, the Rockies, the Brewers got better. Who knows what the Mets are going to do? The Phillies added this offseason. They had a very interesting offseason. So I think the Cardinals, due to consistency, and as you mentioned, the Cardinal way, will be able to pull out a wild card this season. And I think it's been proven the Cardinals have been a team, as painful as this is for me to say, they've kind of been like the Giants making the postseason. They're able to squeak into the playoffs, and if you can go in hot, you can steamroll everyone. And I think the Cardinals, with their tradition of winning and having players on the roster who have, 1 or 2 World Series rings under their belt, could actually help that become a reality. The Cubs, I think, the Cardinals haven't handled the Cubs very well, but if you're able to somehow avoid the Cubs in the playoffs, which could very well happen, it's been proven that the Cardinals have had the Dodgers' number in the playoffs over the past 5-6 years. The Nationals, as we both know, can't win a playoff series. They just can't do it, no matter how good their roster is, no matter if objectively they had the best team in baseball, because it kind of objectively they do have one of the best rosters, but it just seems like they can't get over the hump in the playoffs. So I do think the Cardinals have the potential to win it all, but it's going to be a tough road, and that's kind of all I really have to say about it.
I know it killed you to compare the Giants and the Cardinals.
It really
that
did.
Absolutely killed you.
But, on an objective level, they have been similar in that way of a team barely squeaking into the playoffs, but, going on an amazing run and then winning it all.
Yeah, well, I'm excited for baseball season.
I am too.
I know you are, Ben. When we come back, we will let you know who's riding the bus this week and also give you our final thoughts.
Stay tuned. We'll be back.
Like what you're hearing? Well, I've got news for you. You no longer have to wait a whole week to hear from your favorite sports personalities. Hi, I'm Nate Wiggins, and Ben Friedel and I have got you covered. Give our show, The Unathletic, a sports podcast, a listen. We release new episodes every Monday and are committed to bringing you the best content. That's right, the very best content.